So it's so crazy that I'm getting this card, and I'm going to show you why in 1 second. Hold on. I've been charting my energy throughout the month, and specifically based on last month, like you can see, so today is February 8th, and then February 7th, I actually wrote down, I don't know if you can see this, but I actually wrote down creativity spike, because this was the same time last month that I was feeling extremely creative. And so it's really insane that the day after I get the goddess Brigid, which is a creative spark. So let's go ahead and read some highlights from this. Love that it's alphabetized. It's like, duh. And if you guys have a deck like this, just know that also, like, what's happening? What's this? What's this? This is like a mad woman's ponytail. Okay, anyway, it's out of frame. If you guys have cards like this, just know that in this instruction, it does have some structure that you can use. For example, certain spreads, like, you know, obviously a linear spread, or there's one called like the 4 Jewels of the Goddess spread. There's even just like the 3 card spread, which is a traditional, you know, you'd see that in tarot as well. It's like, sometimes it's past, present, future, but in this case, it's like, what do I need to know now for my highest good? What do I need to do to manifest my highest good? And then what could the potential outcome be if I continue on this path? Which is a very shamanic way of looking at things. It's not about like missed opportunities, but rather what can you do with what you currently have. You can also, like I just did, pull a single card. I think that's completely fine. You know, if you're just looking for some connection and inspiration. So, empowerment message. Inspiration and imagination are yours to play with right now. You effortlessly connect to your inner creative spark and make meaningful and beautiful experiences for yourself and others. Take advantage of this fruitful time. When you are so in tune, it's like taking a magical trip to the land of the fairy, where all that glitters really is gold and your life seems like a grand artistic gesture. This fiery Celtic goddess of creativity calls you to play in the artistry of your life, your work, and your loves. Brigid is whispering her sparkling music deep in your soul. Are you listening? Alignment message. I was just going to say, what is so funny about getting this card is, like, I had written in my diary that this was going to be the time of having a creative spark. And then I felt myself dragging my feet. I was like, I don't feel creative. I feel hungry. Like, what? I don't want to do anything. I just want to eat and, like, watch this Netflix documentary. Like, I don't want to do anything. So let's read the alignment message, because this might be really enlightening too. Okay, so it says, sometimes when you get into a creative slump, you feel frozen in midair, unable to move in any direction. Perhaps you are unsure of the next step with someone new, or a project becomes a looming behemoth in your mind, and you can't think of anything to say in a social moment. Maybe you think all of your best ideas are gone. The thought crossed my mind today. Brigid offers you the alignment task of moving your attention away and remembering what it was like when you were little. When you finger painted and drew stick figures and played with your pals in the sandbox or playground, what moved you and lit you up then is the same creative spark that can move you now. Playful curiosity is what's called for. Don't take yourself or your current conditions too seriously. It's time to be free from the burden of expectation you've set upon yourself. Don't try so hard. Okay. Great, Brigid. Thanks. I won't. The triple goddess of the hearth, the forge, and inspiration brings all of her aspects together to help you sparkle. That's really interesting. Like, when I was a kid, my favorite thing to do was to play library in my room. And I would line up all my books, and I would have this little chest that was like a little table. And I would organize the books based on themes. And of course, like, I was obsessed with cats growing up. So all my books were about cats. It was like every single book you could have about cats. So I would organize all my books about cats, all my books like Babysitter's Club, all my book, like whatever. I would just like organize it in different themes, and then I would even like set them up on the table like as if it was a library display, like this. Like staff picks. Stupid. And then I mean, though not stupid, like I was such a fucking cool little kid. Like, who does that? It's so bizarre. And then I would even I remember I would like have like a kitchen utensil, and I would pretend that it was a scanner, and I would be like, I would take my stuffed animals. I must have been like 8. I would take my stuffed animals and I would line them up, and then I would like check out the books for them. I would like take the little scanner and be like, hi, welcome to the library. Looks like you've chosen a book on cats. Perfect. And I would like scan it, and I like stack the books like neatly. I don't know what the adult equivalent of that is. I mean, maybe it is having a YouTube channel called NBA Shaman where you just like talk about this shit. But I do think that in the spirit of Brigid, like, even when I started this video, I was like, I'm just gonna do what I normally do and just like invite you into that world, you know, where I like light my candle and I have like dim lights, and I have my, you know, crystal that I'll hold just for good clearing energy. And then I might like read a card and be inspired and have a notebook nearby and just write. I mean, this is really one of my nighttime rituals. The kids just went to sleep, and it's like, you know, I have an hour before I'm going to get ready for bed and all that good stuff. So this is like the juice. This is the magic. Like, this is what I do. I just sit at this little table and I do this stuff, you know, which is super cool. I'm going to take this card as both like at its face value, but also the alignment message, because I think it's important that nothing ever is what you think it's going to be or how it's going to turn out. And a lot of times it's just like, not just like sticking through it or pushing through it, because I really don't like that as a mentality. Like, I don't think that you should just like push through things. Like, I think that you should find ways, like the card suggests, to tap into different energies that will reignite or re-inspire, you know, what you're trying to do. So I think on that note, like, what I wanted to share tonight was really my thoughts around initiation. So in shamanism, we talk a lot about initiation and how one becomes a shaman. And if you go by the book, there are definitely ways that people in more traditional societies would decide who is a shaman. I read a story where it was like a guy was 42 years old and waiting his whole life to be told that he would, you know, step into the mantle of the healer for his community. And he was like waiting for a sign his whole life. But some of the traditional signs, according to, you know, the literature, are things like you get struck by lightning. Literally, if you get struck by lightning, that is supposed to be a sign that you are a chosen one. Or if you exhibit a lot of gifts early on as a child. Or a big one that seems to recur often in the literature is around sickness. So you would all of a sudden be struck with like a devastating illness that brings you to the brink of death. And it's almost like that spirit is bringing you to the brink to test you. And then if you pass that test, then you are indeed a shaman who has healed himself or herself. And therefore you have, you know, been marked or been chosen. I think probably similar to the way that perhaps like the Bible is interpreted, like you really can't take everything so literally. I mean, I have not, knock on wood, been struck by lightning, and I don't know many shamans who have. So I think about, well, how do we take these stories and these messages and how do we make them accessible, you know? How do we apply them in our daily normal lives? And, you know, what I wanted to share is my story of initiation and how I got started on the path of shamanism. And hopefully, if you're early on in the path as well, that this will resonate with you. So step one, did not get struck by lightning, although there's still time. So I would say, and I'm like looking at my notes because I did write down some of the reasons, like some of the things. So I would say that from a very young age, like probably from when I was 10, I really felt drawn to the spiritual arts. So even when I was 12, I remember my favorite book that I was obsessed with, that was like literally the edges of the book were like worn, was like a book on dreaming. And I'm sure it was like Jungian influence, but I had no idea any of those frameworks at the time. I was just like a 12-year-old who was really interested in like deciphering my own dreams. And that was just like a book I literally read to death. Like the pages were so worn, and I just like loved that book. And I used to have like a dream journal, and I would like keep track of all these things. And so I think also when I was very young, when I was about 12 also, I was given a set of like the I Ching sticks, which is like the obviously, well, not obviously, but I guess for me, since I'm Chinese, they're a divination tool, right? And so fortune tellers in China would use these. You literally hold it. I wish I had, like, what, first off, what happened to those sticks? I think they're just like at my parents' house in Beijing somewhere. But you basically hold, it's just like a container, and it has like the 64 sticks inside, and you hold them and you shake them until one literally falls out. And then you have a little booklet, and then based on whatever stick comes out, you would like read that. And again, it was like a divinity tool. It was a way of like telling your fortune. So I was doing that even when I was like 12. When I was 15, I started getting into tarot cards. I had a friend who was really into it, and so she introduced me to that. And I just think I was like very, very open from a young age to like this kind of stuff. And I think that if you're in a similar boat where you're like, I don't know why, like it makes no sense, but I've always been into tarot and reiki and astrology and like interested in witchcraft and like all of these things, like, you know, I think you have to listen to that. You know, that's definitely a sign that perhaps not that you're like meant to, you know, be a shamanic healer, but in fact that this work could possibly be healing for you. Even if you're not going to become a practitioner, it could be something that you could really benefit from as a client, you know? So there's that. And then I have to say, a couple years ago when I first moved to Denver, I had a very strong experience where I went for a Reiki healing and certification session. So I was in the process of like becoming a Reiki healer. And which, like, even as I say these words, I'm like, what? Who? Again, it's like, I think what's striking about this is that it's so different from my normal external path. Like, if you just met me, you would, or if you just like looked at my resume, which I don't know why you would, it's boring. But if you looked at my resume, you would see like a lot of the choices that I've made to the outside world have been very business focused, career focused, you know, whether it's going to Columbia to get my MBA or like working at Fortune 500 companies, like that's what was on paper. And so the fact that like I was on the side, like kind of like on the DL, you know, my friend calls it like coming out of the spiritual closet, like, oh no, coming out of the broom closet is what she calls it, you know. But it's like I was doing all this stuff on the DL, and I guess that's why it's like bizarre for me to even be like, when I was getting my Reiki certification, because it's just like not something that's really public, you know, it's part of my persona. My good friends who know me know that that's like the most exciting and juiciest part of me, but people who just know me casually like would be like, what? But like, didn't you study finance? So anyway, I just want to tell this story. So basically when I was doing my Reiki certification, the Reiki healer did this visualization exercise where she had me sit down in front of kind of like an altar, I think, that she had built. And then she did some drumming. She did some kind of just simple, handheld drumming. And she asked me to close my eyes and visualize and kind of just like tell me what I saw. And as soon as I closed my eyes, I saw owl, which is now one of my primary power animals. But it was the first time that I had any kind of vision or contact with that animal. But it was so clear. It was like, boom, there's an owl. And not only that, but, and this is something that has been recurrent, I saw the owl, but then I merged with the owl and I almost like put on the owl's head, for lack of a better word. And then I was able to see through the eyes of the owl. I was able to fly. I was able to like basically merge and get all of the power, or like, I should say it more delicately, like I was able to connect with the source power and like kind of have like a symbiosis happen. But I have to say, like, this was before I even knew what shamanism was. Like, all this stuff was happening as an undercurrent. Like, all of it was going on in my life. And I think, what I would say is just pay attention. If you find yourself having all these different things where you're like, I saw an owl, and like, what does that mean, And I remember like, sitting in a friend's office one time and talking to her. And this was before I even knew that we were going to leave New York City and go to Denver. And I was like, I think I just need to like go out west. I'm thinking, Arizona or somewhere, New Mexico, and just go on a spiritual journey and like, go meet with like a shaman or something. I mean, the words came out of my mouth and I didn't even know what in the F I was talking about. Like, it just like, I was like a verbal fart, But I think what I would urge you to do is like, I think I didn't do this enough. Like, I just didn't put in the effort to like put the pieces together. You know what I mean? It's like, I can trace this back. I can trace this thread back to when I was 9 years old and I'm 37, So that's 32 years of history of being interested in this, like being called to it, seeing visions around it. And it just took a minute, and that's fine. Like it's all perfect. It's exactly how it's meant to be. But I think like if you're in that situation where you're like, I don't know, I'm kind of like curious about this stuff. It's like so bizarre. It's so out of left field. It's like not anything I even think about, like what is this world? It's just so foreign to me because I'm, a chartered accountant at an investment bank. Like I get it, So I think what I would really urge you to do is just to listen to that and follow the breadcrumbs. Follow the breadcrumbs. It will lead you to the right place. Absolutely. Last piece of just sort of information that I want to share is if you are curious about shamanism, what I would say is definitely do the reading, watch some videos, like start to understand at least some of the, methodology behind it and sort of the history. Yes, all of that is great. All of that intellectual blah, blah, blah is like wonderful, and it will help you kind of ground and frame and kind of get you mentally where you need to be. But I would say the best thing that you can do as an early person who's interested in shamanism is just attend a live workshop. And I think that there's nothing like actually just being guided and going on your first journey to have that really awaken something in you. And it either is going to awaken something in you, or you're going to close your eyes and be like, this is bullshit, like, get me out of here. So either way, it's going to be like a great litmus test. But I found, like, for example, literally if you just Google like shamanic workshop near whatever city you're in, like there's going to be, an awesome teacher in your area. Like I found an amazing teacher that's based in Boulder, which was only an hour away from where I was at the time. And it was just like a 2-day experience, and it was amazing. And it was just like, it was guided journey after guided journey after guided journey with partner work and exercises. It was very hands-on. And I find that like if you're interested in this stuff at all, that would be my best recommendation. It's like, yes, do the reading, but like do it on the bus on the way to the actual workshop where you can learn the stuff, you know? So that's just my recommendation, is if you can, go find somewhere. And even if you look on Meetup and you search for drumming circle or even shamanism on Meetup, there are tons of people who are putting together these awesome circles that you can just, you know, you're welcome to join. So that would be my recommendation, is as early as you can, get some hands-on experience doing this stuff and not just like thinking about it or reading about it. Really go and do it. All right, guys. Well, that is my candlelight. This is my candlelight video for tonight. And I bid you farewell. I will see you soon.